Today, I want to talk to you about how we can release ourselves from a self-sabotage pattern in a way that's never been available before. In the past, we have been able to maybe mentally analyze and get ourselves to a point where we can cope or rationalize and do some, obviously, exercises. We have grounding, we have meditation, we have seeking support, communicating with other people. But what we've always come up against is the fact that we don't know that we are doing things to put ourselves in positions of harm where our needs are not being met. And today, that's harm. If we are not loved and supported, then we are not embracing our right to be sentient beings in this experience. So the way that they have showed it to me over the last few weeks with my own personal experience, my clients, my family and friends, has been in comparison to last year, where we could see what we were doing. We could see what we were doing. And so we could take responsibility for the choices we made or the actions we did that put ourselves in harm's way. But now we can go that next step deeper and see what we are telling ourselves in self-sabotage to make us do those things. And our self-talk and our programs, often we'll talk about the fact that they've come in our childhood. We've asked for them to be here. And the way other intuitives talking on this topic have framed it, there's a lot of varieties, but the one that I found the clearest reasoning, so that you can take the process that we're all doing, is if we have a karmic pattern of loss and blame. We do something in a past life, and if we feel like it's the wrong thing, we blame ourselves, we carry the karma forward. We feel like it's the right thing, justified, we had all the right intentions, we don't usually blame ourselves. And positive karma, of course, we don't blame ourselves or take credit for creating or deserving it. So if you blame yourself, you create a punishment cycle. Spirit does not do this to you. We do this to us. We create a punishment cycle where we have to either make up for it or learn from it. And that has been fine. We've enjoyed largely that experience through our lifetimes as souls, accepting that that was a really important way to do things. But now that we're in an energy where everything is finer and they're giving us so much more access, and we need energy just for consciousness and for the level of processing and awareness and intention we want to be creating. We can't be spending all of our energy in those lower vibrations that came through the dark ages and the last few decades. Up to now, we're being asked to be in higher vibration, but it also means we are allowed to release some of the tricks or traps that we accepted when we came here. So knowing that it was part of our journey, we created the manifestation of that past life sabotage in our childhood. So we'll have reasons and places that we'll be able to find the pattern. But that's not important because we've got a release point at last. So the way we find the pattern is we look at something that upsets us. And usually I've noticed that we seem to be getting them in groups of 3. So it will be 3 people upset you in the same way, or 3 events leave you feeling the same way. So the feeling is where you're going to find, not the pain, but where you're going to find the direction for what we're looking for. So if more than one person or event makes you feel something, you're the common denominator. It's about you, not them. And it's a really great way to get early advanced warning of a lesson before they have to make it harder, which is excellent. So we go, okay, I have this lesson, I have this pattern coming up. What am I going to do with it? Sometimes we'll look at it and go, what's in it for me? What if it's for me? What am I here to learn? But this time we're able to go, if this is a pattern that I'm creating on a regular basis, Where is it coming from? What is the self-talk that I have that puts me in this position? And beyond that, earlier on will be, what's the belief system of lack of worth that you're working with? So I'm going to give you some examples of how this is played out for a few people, and you'll be able to see more of how you'll access yours and how you'll recognize which yours is. So for one of my, the woman I know, hers was around overwork. Okay. So sometimes we try to prove our worth by working hard. And we want to work hard, we want to contribute. That's okay. But when it's coming from a place of worthlessness, then we're in harm's way and we're harming ourselves. And that's why I call it self-sabotage. We are not supporting ourselves. So here she would take on extra hours, she would do more work. She believed she had to, not because the boss was terrible, but because it had to be done and she was the one who could do it, so she should do it. There's a lot of ways you create the story in your head to match the belief system that you have to prove your worth. And of course, when you're working this hard for work, home life suffers. And your daily life is your home. It's not your job. Your job will move on. You are not replaceable in your home, right? In your space, in your journey, with your family, with yourself. This is where your priority needs to be. And that's a really nice way of checking where we're sabotaging. Is our priority, are we compromising our home, our personal relationships and space for external things? Then we're looking at a self-worth question. And with absolute love and kindness, okay? We may have confidence, we may have the self-esteem stuff up here in spades, but we also in the human condition have the self-worth, and that usually needs a lot of journeying because we've created a version of worthlessness somewhere in some part of our story so that we can find our worth and have the power to really value ourselves. It's important. So it's not a mistake and it's not a negative thing. It's just we're at the point in evolution that we can release this. We don't have to stay in loveless relationships with ourselves. So we go, 3 or 4 things happen at work that made her feel she needed to take on work, made her feel like it had to be her, she was the only one, made her feel like if she didn't do well at this, they would think she wasn't good at her job. And of course, she's excellent at her job, but the program never changes, doesn't matter how good you get. So 3 different events, unrelated, different people, created a feeling in her that she might drop the ball. And then what was her value? So we wind it back to where the decisions were made to put you in this position. At what point did she say to herself, I will do this. I will take on that task. It has to be me, all of those things. Before the relationship, the task, the events occur, we're putting them in motion. And then what is the thought pattern? This is the key. The solution is before the key. What is the thought pattern that made you do it? In this proving your worth scenario, it was, I have to because otherwise they won't think I'm worthwhile. I have to because otherwise they will consider that I'm not good at this. So before we sabotage ourselves by believing they will see the worthlessness that comes beforehand, we buy our own story and we put a plug in place so nobody else can see it because we hide our fears and our insecurities. And many other videos talk about making that sacred space and sending love in it. But today we're just looking at this. So what is the belief system? That's the point in the releasing thing. And what is the self-talk that we have before we take an action, before we make decisions in our lives? And we want to go back to the fear of being seen as less for some reason, in this case worthless, and go, if I was loved and supported, what would I say to myself? What would I do differently? Just imagine in this scenario, if I was loved and supported and I was offered more work, because I don't believe this has been given to the person is reaching for it. If I was offered more work and I was loving and supportive of myself, I would say, I need this energy for home. I'm already doing a very good job. If I was worth more, worth everything, they wouldn't expect it of me. So we don't give ourselves the dialogue we have to, so they don't see our worthlessness. The framing is, I am worth this. I am worth support. I am worth loving. And then the events stop, and you'll see that there's no reaction outside. The expectations were not created by the other parties. If you say, I'm at my limit, that's simply your truth. Another example, one of the girls I work with felt like she was stupid. So she would have these events occur in her world where she would make mistakes and people would respond to the stupidity of the mistakes, simple mistakes that most people wouldn't be making. And so she'd set herself up to fail by, before taking on the task or making the mistake, before we get into that position of the actual external response, she had this self-talk that said, what if I'm stupid? What if they don't like me? What if I'm not worth being here? And they find out that I'm not worth it. So I won't tell them that now I'm scared that I'll make a mistake. I'll just keep going and hope it doesn't happen, because I don't want them to think I'm stupid. And then the event happens that reinforces you're manifesting a belief to look at that you're stupid. And nobody is stupid. Our brains are magic. Some people are creative. Some people are scientists. Some people are organizers. Some people are nurturers. It's not about whether we are or aren't any of these things. It's about what are we telling ourselves. So we go back to, if I was loving and supported to myself, and I knew that I was loved as I am, when I get into this position, what would I say? I'm not sure. Can you tell me again? Or I don't quite understand. I'm going to need more help. Or can you just give me one thing to do at a time, because otherwise I get really confused. So there's speeches about self-support rather than self-sabotage. And then we go back to, because I am worth loving and supported in this feeling. And again, it lifts. It's not a hard exercise. It's complicated in that we have to find the feeling and reframe our thoughts and support in our head. But once you've found it, your guides are tasked with removing it from your karmic future. And then your decisions moving forward are automatically aligned to, I have value here, instead of what if I don't. So you have your evidence of how this will play out. So we're not asking you to do a whole bunch of release work or then ask your guides to take it away. They're receiving this in the message here as well, but it's more about you finding your truth and reframing it. Okay. For another, it was not worth loving. And the event, 3 different men, and this was a woman, 3 different men in their lives, all not looking after her, and unrelated, different life paths. I think it was father, husband, and friend. And being able to go back to, this is the event that's happening. What was the self-talk that put me here? I have to be nice to them so that they love me. I need to pay attention to their needs so they can see that I'm worth loving, because I care and I nurture and I'm aware. But then, of course, receiving no nurture and awareness back, because you're the one making choice here. And so the self-talk became, if I'm not worth loving, which is the solution piece we're going to work on, the self-talk was, I have to essentially give up my rights, give up my need for support, hoping that if I support them, they'll return it, which is a non-verbal contract that nobody else knows about. So we understand energetically you won't get back from anybody what you haven't expressed verbally or intentionally. Your intention is to defer your needs and your rights, to literally move out of your chair for somebody else. For no reason, there's another chair. To allow your sacred spaces to be pushed aside, right? Because you're deferring all of your needs, your rights to be here for somebody else. These are choices. But we don't know we're doing them if they're subconscious choices. So we go back to, I'm not worth loving. What if I am? How would it feel if I felt loved by me? And if I can't quite manage that, can I feel my guides love me? Can I see my soul before this body and this emotional experience and see how magical, how much worth, not even worth loving, totally abundantly loved? Have your ancestors come and whatever you need to remind yourself that you are worth loving. And when you come to this self-talk, you choose your needs and not theirs. It's not to say you're going to ignore people in the future. It's just that you need to do the exercise in this with the examples you have and be going, okay, so this is where I gave my power away. This is where I deferred my needs for them. This is where I behaved in a way that I hoped that they would love and respect and celebrate me for. And then you'll find that people, not only do people who aren't capable, we have the narcissist place, so people who aren't capable of respecting your boundaries move further away, making room for others, always win. But you naturally start making choices. If somebody says, hey, would you mind picking me up? And you naturally go, that's actually deferring my needs for you. I don't think I will, because you have other solutions, or you need to, or in this case, they did ask. But, you know, what's in it for you? And this is about you taking your place on the planet, having the right to be here. There are a couple more examples, men and women who felt that they owed it to business to work too hard because they felt that if they didn't, they would find out that they weren't smart enough or weren't right in the head or weren't, that there was something wrong with them. If I'm going to prove that there's something wrong with me by working too hard to overcompensate for this, instead of going back to where this happened and going, there's nothing wrong with me. I have a beautiful mind and personality designed for this lifetime. I just haven't realized my purpose. I am fine as I am. And then your choices will be, I'm sorry I can't work that fast, or I don't know how to do these things, or you're asking too much of me, I need your support here, in the workplace, with family, with friends. So we're having contemplation, what do I really think, what do I feel? We're having the reframe, here's who I really am, and if I was loved, what would I do? And then we're having an external response, because it takes the pattern out, so it's no longer part of your energetic subconscious program. It's really, I'm so grateful for this on the planet. I'm so grateful for how it's changed my life and how much power and love and calmness that people who are doing this are feeling.